The medical bay's sterile lights hummed overhead as Mina Var pressed her palm against the scanner. Her ribs screamed in protest, but she kept her expression neutral. The Galactic Council's chief physician, a 7-foot Velcrin with crystalline skin, had just cleared her for duty after 3 days of regenerative treatment. "You humans are absurdly fragile," the physician had muttered, mandibles clicking disapprovingly. "Any other species would have taken 2 weeks minimum." Mina had simply smiled and signed the discharge papers. Now, standing outside her quarters aboard the GSS Horizon's Edge, she hesitated. Her hand hovered over the door panel. Through the reinforced metal, she could hear it, the shuffling of massive paws, the soft whimpers, the occasional scratch against the floor. They'd been waiting. For 3 days, they'd been waiting. The door slid open. 200 pounds of fur, claws, and unconditional devotion hit her like a tactical missile. "Rocky, wait!" Mina's words dissolved into laughter as the Karathi cub bowled her over, completely ignoring her injuries. His littermate, equally enormous and equally ecstatic, joined the assault from the left flank. They were barely adolescents by Karathi standards, but each cub already massed more than Mina herself. Rocky's species, apex predators from a high-gravity death world, had evolved to hunt prey 3 times their size. Their adult forms could crush titanium with their jaws. Their claws could shred combat armor like tissue paper. Right now, those same claws were kneading her shoulders with desperate affection, while dual sets of violet eyes stared at her with relief so profound it transcended species barriers. I know, Mina gasped, trying to protect her bandaged ribs while simultaneously returning their nuzzling. "I missed you too, you overgrown teddy bears." The translator collar around Rocky's neck crackled to life. His vocalizations, complex rumbles and chirps that would terrify most species, converted to standard. "You left. You were hurt. We smelled your blood." His littermate, still too young for linguistic translation, simply pressed his massive head against Mina's chest and keened. "Hey, hey," Mina wrapped her arms around both cubs, ignoring the pain. "I'm here. I'm okay. See? All patched up." "Liar." Rocky's translation was blunt, but his tone carried something more complex. Hurt, anger, fear, all wrapped together. "Your scent is pain. Your heartbeat is wrong. You should not have come back so soon." The corridors of the Horizon's Edge had grown accustomed to strange sights over the years. The ship was humanity's first deep space diplomatic vessel, crewed by 100 species working toward Galactic Council integration. But even seasoned xenobiologists stopped to stare when Mina Var, barely 5'4" and still sporting a medical support brace, walked the halls flanked by 2 juvenile Kirathi. The cubs never left her side now. Where Mina went, 2 shadows followed, their claws clicking against metal floors, their eyes scanning every corridor for threats. "It's embarrassing," complained Lieutenant Torres from engineering, watching the procession pass. "Most terrifying predators in the known galaxy, and they follow her around like ducklings." "You're just jealous," his Zentari colleague observed, both eye stalks tracking the unusual trio. "Do you know what the adoption requirements are for Kirathi young?" Torres didn't. Nobody did, really. The Kirathi were a notoriously private species, and their homeworld was restricted to outsiders. They'd only joined the Galactic Council 15 cycles ago, and even then, their participation was minimal. But everyone knew the story by now. How Mina Var, xenobiologist and cultural liaison, had been part of the first human delegation to Kiratha Prime. How a territorial dispute between rival clans had turned violent during the diplomatic mission. How Mina had thrown herself between the warring factions and a den of cubs that weren't even her own species, because she'd seen them and her human instincts had overridden common sense. She'd nearly died. 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, massive claw wounds across her back, but she'd bought enough time for the Kirathi matriarchs to arrive and restore order. The cubs remembered. More importantly, they'd imprinted. In Kirathi culture, an adult who risks death to protect unrelated young is granted the highest honor, pack bond. It's instinctive, hardwired into their predatory neurology. The cubs had chosen her, and no amount of interstellar diplomacy could undo that bond. So the Galactic Council had made an exception. For the first time in their history, Kirathi young would be raised off-world by a human. 3 days after Mina's return from medical, the ship's captain summoned her to the bridge. Captain Threll, a pragmatic Vorgin with chrome-plated carapace, gestured to the view screen. "We've received a transmission from Karatha Prime. The Matriarch Council wants a progress report on the cubs." Mina felt Rocky tense beside her. "What kind of report? Physical health? Psychological development? Integration status?" Threll's mandibles twitched, his species equivalent of a grimace. "And they want to know if you're still capable of fulfilling your bonded duties. Word of your recent injury reached them." "I'm fine." "You are not fine." Rocky's translation cut through the bridge's ambient noise. Several crew members turned. "You were badly hurt. You healed too slowly. Your species is weak." Mina looked down at the cub. His violet eyes held hers unblinking. "Rocky, But you came back." The translation softened. "You were hurt, but you came back. You always come back." Something in Mina's chest, maybe her healing ribs, maybe something deeper, tightened. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I always will." Captain Threll watched the exchange with something approaching wonder on his alien features. "I'll tell the Matriarch Council that the bond remains strong." That night, in her quarters, Mina sat on her bunk with a cub pressed against either side. They were too big for this now, really. Their combined mass made breathing difficult, and her ribs ached with every breath. She wouldn't have had it any other way. "Tell me something," she murmured to Rocky. "Why tackle me? You knew I was injured." "Your species can smell pain from a kilometer away." The cub's response came after a long pause. "Because you came back smiling." Mina blinked. "What?" "Humans smile when happy. You were hurt, but you smiled when you saw us, so we knew you wanted us to tackle you. You wanted to know we missed you too." In the darkness of her quarters, aboard a ship floating between stars, Mina Var understood something profound about the strange bridge her species was building with the galaxy. Humans weren't the strongest. They weren't the smartest or the longest lived. But they had this reckless, beautiful capacity to love across species lines, to form bonds that made no evolutionary sense, to smile through pain because something they cared about needed to see that smile. She wrapped her arms around both cubs and pulled them closer, ignoring her protesting ribs entirely. "Damn right I wanted you to tackle me," she whispered.